4 people. 4 Oscar frauds. 1 fabricated an entire race and fooled Hollywood for 50 years. 1 fled the country after pleading guilty to unlawful relations with a 13-year-old, and 1 Best Director as a fugitive. 1 used Oscar power to harm over 80 women, and 1 accepted an Academy Award for work he never wrote. Sacheen Littlefeather, the Oscar icon who fabricated her entire heritage, March 27, 1973. The 45th Academy Awards. When Roger Moore and Lee Ullman announced Marlon Brando as Best Actor for The Godfather, a young woman in an Apache dress walks to the microphone instead. Her long black hair is adorned with intricate beadwork. She wears buckskin and moccasins. The crowd falls silent. She introduces herself as Sacheen Littlefeather, Apache, and Yaqui, and explains that Brando cannot accept this award. She speaks of the treatment of American Indians in the film industry, of Wounded Knee, of betrayal spanning generations. Some boo, others applaud. The moment lasts 60 seconds, but its impact reverberates for decades. Raquel Welch's face registers shock. Clint Eastwood sits stone-faced. No one had ever rejected an Oscar before. Sacheen Littlefeather becomes the face of indigenous activism in Hollywood. For decades, universities paid her thousands to speak. Studios hire her to advise on Native representation. Film scholars study that moment as a watershed. Her legend grows. The career she built was extraordinary, and it was all performance. Every time she advised on authentic Native representation, she occupied a seat meant for someone who actually lived that experience. Every documentary appearance, every consulting contract, built on 50 years of theft. The truth was devastating. Sacheen Littlefeather was born Marie Louise Cruz on November 14, 1946, in Salinas, California. Her father, Manuel Ibarra Cruz, was Mexican, born in Oxnard to parents who emigrated from Mexico. Genealogical records trace the Cruz family back multiple generations. All Mexican, no tribal connections whatsoever. Immigration documents show the family identified as Caucasian and Mexican. There is zero evidence of Apache or Yaqui heritage. The woman who rejected an Oscar on behalf of indigenous peoples had fabricated her entire identity. In June 2022, the Academy apologizes to Sacheen Littlefeather for the mistreatment she endured in 1973. At a September event, weeks before her passing, she receives a standing ovation. "Be proud that we stand as survivors," she tells the crowd. Academy President David Rubin introduces her with glowing praise. "For too long, the courage you showed has been met with unwarranted mistreatment. It was all based on a lie." On October 2, 2022, Sacheen Littlefeather passes away. The New York Times, The Washington Post, The Guardian, all celebrate her as a trailblazer. The world mourns a Native American hero. 2 weeks after her burial, the bomb drops. The San Francisco Chronicle publishes an investigation. Reporter Jacqueline Keeler has interviewed Littlefeather's sisters, Rosalind Cruz and Trudy Orlandi. What they reveal is unthinkable. "It's a lie," Rosalind tells the Chronicle. "My father was who he was. His family came from Mexico." Trudy is even more direct. "It is a fraud. It's disgusting to the heritage of the tribal people." The sisters explain they grew up in a family that never identified as Native American. When Sacheen began claiming Apache and Yaqui identity in her late teens, the family was bewildered. Rosalind remembers that night. When Sacheen appeared in an Apache dress, their mother gasped. "That's not who we are," she said quietly. Their father left the room. He never watched the clip again, even as it played for decades. "It broke something in him," Rosalind says. The Chronicle's investigation included census records, birth certificates, immigration documents spanning 4 generations. Every document identified the family as Mexican or Caucasian. Not one mentioned tribal affiliation. The paper trail was absolute. Imagine being a real Apache activist, watching Sacheen speak with authority about your culture, believing she understood your pain, then discovering she'd stolen your heritage for profit. The White Mountain Apache tribe has no record of the Cruz family. The Pascua Yaqui tribe confirms neither Littlefeather nor her parents were enrolled. The sisters offer a heartbreaking explanation. Sacheen did not like herself, Orlandi reveals. She didn't like being Mexican. It was more prestigious to be an American Indian than to be Hispanic in her mind. For 50 years, Sacheen Littlefeather occupied space meant for authentic indigenous voices. She spoke on panels where real Native activists should have been heard. Real Native activists finally spoke. "She took my seat at the table," one Lakota filmmaker said. "I was told there wasn't room for another Native woman in that project. Now I know why. She was already there and she wasn't even Native." Every panel she sat on, that was an opportunity stolen from a real indigenous person. a Navajo screenwriter, explained. We were fighting for scraps of representation, and she was taking those scraps while pretending to be one of us. Norbert Hill, a member of the Oneida Nation, put it bluntly. This is about opportunities stolen from actual Native people struggling to break into an industry that already marginalized us. The Academy apologized to a woman who had deceived them about her very identity. The September tribute event, the standing ovation, all based on a fundamental lie. For 49 years, Marie Louise Cruz lived as Sachin Littlefeather, and the world believed her. Every time you watch that 1973 Oscar clip, and it's been played thousands of times, you're watching a fraud. The iconic moment that's supposed to represent courage and activism, built on a lie. If this revelation has shaken you, you need to subscribe. Because what happens when it's not one person lying, but an entire industry committing fraud on Oscar's most sacred stage? The fraudulent Oscar winners of the blacklist era, when the Academy honored people who didn't create the winning work. Littlefeather's fraud was personal. One woman, one false identity, one Oscar moment that changed her life. But what happens when the Academy itself honors frauds? When Oscar winners walk on stage to accept awards for work they probably didn't create? March 30th, 1957. Oscar night. Somewhere in Hollywood, a man is about to commit fraud at the highest level of the Academy. An Oscar is about to be given to a ghost. And the real writer, the man who actually created the winning work, is watching from exile, forbidden from claiming his own achievement. The 29th Academy Awards ceremony at the RKO Pantages Theater in Hollywood. The category is Best Motion Picture Story, recognizing original narratives. The nominees represent compelling tales. Edward Burns and Elwood Ullman for High Society, William Rose for The Bold and the Brave, Dalton Trumbo for The Brave One, Federico Fellini and Tullio Pinelli for La Strada, and Jean-Paul Sartre for The Proud and the Beautiful. When the winner is announced, Robert Rich for The Brave One. Presenter Jesse Lasky Jr. accepts on Rich's behalf. Mr. Rich is not here this evening, Lasky explains to the audience, offering no further details. The golden statuette is placed in Academy custody, waiting for Rich to claim it. Days pass. Weeks, months. No Robert Rich appears. Oscar sits in a vault. Journalists begin investigating. Who is Robert Rich? The name appears on the screenplay credits for The Brave One, a heartfelt film about a Mexican boy trying to save his beloved bull from the bullfighting arena. But no one in Hollywood seems to know this writer personally. The King brothers, who produced the film, claim Rich is a young writer, a nephew. But when pressed for details, their story becomes vague. Where does he live? Why hasn't he claimed his Oscar? Why won't he do interviews? One reporter from the Hollywood Reporter camps outside the King brothers' office for 3 days, hoping to catch a glimpse of Robert Rich. He never appears. The studio lot guards claim they've never seen him. The screenplay was delivered by courier. The checks were cashed at a bank in Beverly Hills, but the signature on file doesn't match any Robert Rich in California records. The mystery deepens. But here's what journalists were whispering in private. Someone was committing fraud at the highest level of the Academy. An Oscar was about to be given to a ghost. And the real writer, the man who actually created The Brave One, was watching from exile, forbidden from claiming his own work. Suspicion grows. Rumors circulate. Some whisper that Robert Rich is a pseudonym. Others suspect he might be one of the blacklisted writers forced to work under false names. But without proof, the mystery persists. The Academy's official record stands. Robert Rich won the Oscar for Best Motion Picture Story in 1957. Except Robert Rich didn't exist. The name was borrowed from the nephew of producer Frank King, a real person who had nothing to do with writing The Brave One. The actual author was Dalton Trumbo, one of Hollywood's highest-paid screenwriters, now forbidden from working under his own name. So who accepted Oscars for work they didn't create? Who stood on that stage, held that statuette, and lied to the world? And how long did they get away with it? Imagine Hollywood turning into a police state overnight. That's what happened in 1950. Refused to cooperate with the House Un-American Activities Committee, face contempt charges, imprisonment, and lose everything. 10 writers and directors, the Hollywood 10, refused to testify, citing First Amendment protections. They were convicted, sentenced to prison, and blacklisted. The blacklist expanded to include hundreds of artists. Careers vanished overnight. Families faced financial ruin. Among them was Dalton Trumbo. After his conviction and 10-month imprisonment in 1950 to 1951, Trumbo couldn't work under his own name. He had a family to feed. So he made a choice. Write in secret, let others claim credit, watch frauds accept his Oscars, Imagine this. You're one of Hollywood's highest-paid writers. You write a script that wins an Oscar, but you can't claim it. You can't attend the ceremony. You can't tell your children. You watch someone else walk on that stage, hold your Oscar, give your speech, take your glory home. And if you speak up, you'll never work again. That was Dalton Trumbo's reality. Before the blacklist, Trumbo earned $75,000 per script, equivalent to over $800,000 today. After prison, he wrote the same quality work for $3,000, sometimes less. He worked 16-hour days in his bathtub. He claimed the hot water helped his arthritis, churning out screenplay after screenplay just to keep his family housed and fed. Mitzi Trumbo remembered eating watered-down soup for dinner while her father typed in the next room. She remembers her mother crying quietly in the kitchen when the electricity bill came. And she remembers her father telling her, "Someday, sweetheart, my name will be on my work again." He passed away believing that day would never come. His children wore secondhand clothes. His wife Cleo took in sewing. And somewhere in Hollywood, men who couldn't write a single decent line collected fat paychecks and Oscar statuettes for Trumbo's brilliance. From his home in Mexico and later Los Angeles, Trumbo writes screenplays under pseudonyms and through fronts, people who agree to claim authorship while Trumbo ghostwrites from the shadows. He produces scripts at a furious pace, earning a fraction of his former wages, but keeping his family afloat. The studios know the truth. They benefit from Trumbo's talent while paying him far less than his work is worth. But the public record shows different names. The credits go to people who didn't write a word. 1953. Roman Holiday becomes a major success. At the 1954 Academy Awards, Ian McClellan Hunter won the Oscar for Best Story and Screenplay. He walks on stage. He accepts the statuette. He gives a speech. He thanks his collaborators. He takes home the Golden Trophy. But Ian McClellan Hunter did not write Roman Holiday. Dalton Trumbo did. Hunter wasn't just helping a friend. He was living a lie for 21 years. Every time someone congratulated him on the Roman Holiday, he smiled and said thank you. Every time the Oscar sat on his mantle, he knew it was stolen. He could have refused. He could have declined the award. Instead, he walked on that stage, accepted the statuette, and gave a speech thanking people who had nothing to do with the work. That's fraud. Hunter, helping a blacklisted friend survive persecution, allowed his name to be used. He accepted the Oscar knowing it belonged to Trumbo. For decades, the official Academy record credited Hunter. The Oscars sat in Hunter's home, a trophy for work he didn't create. He displayed it, showed it to guests, accepted congratulations for brilliance that wasn't his. Hunter's Oscar win was fraudulent. Trumbo's daughter, Mitzi, later described watching from home as a child when Roman Holiday won. Her father, the real writer, sat in their Mexico City living room while Ian McClellan Hunter stood on that Oscar stage. She asked why Daddy's name wasn't there. Her mother said, "Someday it will be, sweetheart. Someday." But Trumbo knew the truth. It wouldn't be. Not in his lifetime. He'd won an Oscar, but he'd never get to hold it, never get to give a speech, never get to experience what every writer dreams of. Public validation from peers. The fraud didn't just steal credit. It stole joy. Years later, Mitzi remembered her father stepping outside that night after the broadcast ended. He stood in their small courtyard, smoking a cigarette in the darkness. When he came back inside, his eyes were red. He never mentioned the Oscars again. He just went back to his typewriter and kept writing. And then the Academy commits an even more absurd fraud. 1958. The Bridge on the River Kwai wins 7 Academy Awards, including Best Adapted Screenplay. The Oscar goes to Pierre Boulle, the French novelist who wrote the original book. Boulle accepts the award. His name goes in the record books as an Oscar winner. There's one problem. Pierre Boulle didn't write the screenplay. He didn't speak English. The actual writers were blacklisted screenwriters Michael Wilson and Carl Foreman. Their names were removed from the credits. Boulle's name replaced them. When the film won, Boulle's Oscar, whether he sought it or not, was fraudulent. He won an Academy Award for work he didn't create. Think about that. The Academy gave an Oscar for Best Screenplay to a man who couldn't read the screenplay. Somewhere in that audience, the real writers, Michael Wilson and Carl Foreman, sat watching a fraud accept their award. They couldn't even protest. Speaking up meant admitting they'd violated the blacklist. They had to sit in silence and watch the theft. The fraud becomes laughably obvious. A man who doesn't speak English wins an Oscar for writing an English-language screenplay. The Academy honored an imposter. The brave one represents Trumbo's most audacious use of a pseudonym. Rather than using a living front who might inadvertently reveal the truth, Trumbo and the King brothers create a fictional author, Robert Rich. The gamble is that no one will investigate too deeply. When Robert Rich wins the Oscar in 1957, the plan backfires spectacularly. The mystery of the absent winner generates intense media attention. Journalists dig deeper. Columnists speculate. Hedda Hopper, the powerful gossip columnist, famously asks, "Who the hell is Robert Rich and why are we giving him an Oscar?" Some reporters describe the search for Rich as a rich hunt, playing on the anti-communist witch hunts of the era. The scandal forces Hollywood to confront an uncomfortable truth. Blacklisted writers are still working, their talent too valuable to lose. Studios are profiting from their skills while denying them credit and proper compensation. The Academy has just awarded an Oscar to a name on paper, unwittingly participating in the blacklist's deception. The psychological toll on these writers is immense. They watch inferior artists claim their work. They see imposters give acceptance speeches thanking people who had nothing to do with the creation. They endure the humiliation of having their talent valued, but their names erased. Some, like Trumbo, maintain dark humor about their situation. Others sink into depression and bitterness. Marriages crumble under financial stress. Children grow up knowing their parents' names can't be spoken in connection with their work. By 1960, the blacklist begins to crack. Director Otto Preminger publicly announces that Dalton Trumbo wrote Exodus. Kirk Douglas reveals that Trumbo wrote Spartacus. Both films credit Trumbo openly, defying the blacklist. The move is courageous and risky, but it works. The public embraces both films. The sky doesn't fall. Slowly, painfully, the blacklist loses its power. But for the Oscar frauds already committed, correction comes slowly. 1975. The Academy finally gives Dalton Trumbo his Oscar for The Brave One, 18 years after Robert Rich won it. The presentation is private, at Trumbo's home, as he is already battling lung cancer that will end his life the following year. Academy President Walter Mirisch hands Trumbo the statuette he should have received nearly 2 decades earlier. According to those present, Trumbo held the statuette for a long moment, turning it over in his hands. Then he set it on the table next to his typewriter and said, "It's lighter than I thought it would be." He passed away 7 months later. Oscar sat beside his ashes at the memorial service. Hunter kept Trumbo's Oscar in his home for 21 years. 21 years of fraudulent ownership. Boulet's fraudulent win stood in the Academy records until 1984. 26 years. Robert Rich's Oscar sat unclaimed in a vault, a monument to deception. Roman holiday takes even longer. The Writers Guild of America doesn't officially restore Trumbo's credit until May 2, 2011, 58 years after the film's release and 35 years after Trumbo passed away. The Academy follows suit, but the correction comes far too late for Trumbo to know his name is finally, officially, attached to one of his finest works. The corrections came decades too late, after Trumbo and most blacklisted writers had passed away. Their names were finally restored to their work, but they never got to walk that red carpet, never got to feel that statuette in their hands, never got to stand before their industry and be honored. The frauds stole more than credit. They stole moments that can never be recovered. These men, Hunter, Bull, and the ghost of Robert Rich, may have had sympathetic motives. Hunter was helping a friend survive political persecution. Boulet's level of complicity remains debated. But the Oscar wins themselves were fraudulent. They accepted, or had accepted on their behalf, Academy Awards for work they didn't create. The Academy honored people who didn't earn the awards. And the fraud stood in the official records for decades. The blacklist era produced Hollywood's most systematic Oscar fraud. Multiple fraudulent winners whose names remain in Oscar history, even after exposure. The Oscars you see in your parents' old yearbooks, in classic film retrospectives, in greatest moments compilations, some of them are frauds. The golden age of Hollywood? Built partly on theft. From personal fraud to systematic fraud, 2 different scales of deception. But the next 2 frauds are even darker, because they involve Oscar winners who use their prestige to commit horrific crimes. Which fraud has shocked you more so far? Tell us in the comments. Roman Polanski, the director who won Best Director as a fugitive who committed acts with a child. The blacklist frauds deceived the Academy about who created the work. But our next Oscar winner was already exposed as a criminal when he won. And Hollywood honored him anyway. March 10th, 1977. The Beverly Wilshire Hotel in Los Angeles. Roman Polanski, 43 years old and one of Hollywood's most celebrated directors, is arrested by Los Angeles police. The charge? Unlawful relations with 13-year-old Samantha Gailey. The details, laid out in court documents, are devastating. Polanski met Gailey through her mother, a television actress, when he asked permission to photograph the girl for French Vogue. During a private photo shoot at actor Jack Nicholson's house, Nicholson was away. Polanski gave the 13-year-old champagne and part of a quaalude. He then forcibly committed acts with her, despite her repeated protests. The grand jury indictment lists 6 felony counts: unlawful relations with a minor, use of controlled substances during an incident, perversion, sodomy, a lewd and lascivious act upon a child under 14, and furnishing a controlled substance to a minor. If convicted on all counts, Polanski faces decades in prison. His attorneys negotiate a plea bargain. Polanski will plead guilty to 1 count of unlawful relations with a minor in exchange for dismissal of the other 5 charges and a sentence of probation with time served. On August 8, 1977, Polanski entered his guilty plea before Judge Lawrence J. Rittenband. He admits to having unlawful relations with a 13-year-old. As part of the plea agreement, he undergoes a 90-day diagnostic study at Chino State Prison to determine if he should be classified as a mentally disordered offender. After 42 days, the psychiatrists recommended against imprisonment, finding Polanski unlikely to reoffend. The expectation, shared by Polanski's attorneys and prosecutors, is that Judge Rittenband will sentence him to probation with credit for time served. But Judge Rittenband proves unpredictable. He makes concerning comments suggesting he might reject the plea deal and impose a lengthy prison sentence. Polanski's attorneys panic. February 1st, 1978, the day before his scheduled sentencing hearing. Roman Polanski boards a flight to London. He spends 1 night in England, then flies to Paris. He never returns to the United States. Roman Polanski becomes a fugitive. According to later accounts, Polanski's escape was meticulously planned. His attorney Douglas Dalton later claimed he knew nothing about the flight plan, but others suggested the legal team was aware. Polanski told friends he was leaving for London to work on a film project. He packed 1 suitcase. At Los Angeles International Airport, no one stopped him. He boarded British Airways, flew to London, spent a single night at a hotel, then caught an early morning flight to Paris. By the time Judge Rittenband learned Polanski was gone, he was already protected by French law. When Judge Rittenband learned Polanski had fled, he reportedly threw the case file across his chambers. He made a mockery of this court, the judge said. He stood before me, pleaded guilty, and then ran like a coward. Rittenband wanted to pursue Polanski internationally, but the law was clear. France would never extradite him. France proves to be the perfect sanctuary. Under French law, the country does not extradite its own citizens to face charges abroad. Polanski holds French citizenship. The United States requests extradition multiple times over the following decades. France refuses every request. Polanski settled in Paris, eventually purchasing property and continuing his film career. An international arrest warrant is issued through Interpol, but Polanski simply avoids countries likely to honor American extradition requests. Roman Polanski becomes a fugitive. But here's where it gets obscene. France refuses to extradite him. He makes films. He wins awards. In 1979, he released Tess, an adaptation of Thomas Hardy's novel that he dedicated to his late wife, actress Sharon Tate, who lost her life at the hands of followers of Charles Manson in 1969 while 8 months pregnant. The film received 3 Oscars. Polanski cannot attend the ceremony. His career continues with The Pianist in 2002, Oliver Twist in 2005, The Ghostwriter in 2010. And what happens? Film festivals compete to honor him. A-list actors line up to work with him. Producers fund his projects. The industry doesn't just tolerate a fugitive who pleaded guilty to unlawful relations with a child, it celebrates him. Then comes the 75th Academy Awards on March 23, 2003. The ceremony is held at the Kodak Theater in Hollywood. The Pianist, Polanski's Holocaust drama about Jewish pianist Władysław Szpilman's survival in the Warsaw Ghetto, received 7 nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor. The film is a masterpiece. Roger Ebert calls it a great film, and nearly every critic praises its emotional power and historical authenticity. 25 years. That's how long Polanski has been a fugitive when his name is read for Best Director. The question everyone's asking backstage: will the Academy actually give an Oscar to a fugitive who committed acts with a child? Or will they, at the last moment, find the moral courage to honor someone else? When presenter Harrison Ford opens the envelope for Best Director and reads Roman Polanski, the audience's reaction is mixed. Many applaud enthusiastically. Some rise to their feet in a standing ovation. Others remain seated, faces set in disapproval. Ford delivers the standard line when a winner is absent. The Academy congratulates Roman Polanski and accepts this award on his behalf. He does not acknowledge why Polanski cannot attend. He does not mention that the absent director is a fugitive who pleaded guilty to unlawful relations with a child 25 years earlier. Backstage, Academy officials had debated for weeks whether to even nominate Polanski. Some argued that his fugitive status should disqualify him. Others insisted the Oscars honored artistic achievement, not personal conduct. In the end, they nominated him. When he won, they accepted on his behalf. The standing ovation that followed told the world exactly where Hollywood's priorities lay. Outside the Kodak Theater, protesters hold signs reading, "Hollywood honors someone who committed acts with a child," and "Shame on the Academy." Survivors' advocates issue statements condemning the Academy's decision to honor a fugitive. The disconnect is jarring. Inside, a standing ovation. Outside, moral outrage. Let that sink in. A standing ovation for a fugitive who pleaded guilty to unlawful relations with a child. And then Hollywood does something even more obscene. Polanski, watching from Paris, later describes the win as bittersweet. He receives his Oscar through intermediaries, but cannot attend the ceremony, cannot give an acceptance speech, cannot experience the moment every director dreams of. His fugitive status denies him that validation, even as the Academy grants him its highest honor. The Academy's decision to give Polanski the Oscar, and the standing ovation from many attendees, reveals a troubling calculation in Hollywood. His artistic achievement is celebrated, while his admitted crime is, if not forgotten, then set aside as somehow separate from his work. The message seems to be, talent excuses everything. But Polanski's case doesn't end in 2003. Over the following years, additional women came forward with allegations. In 2010, British actress Charlotte Lewis claims Polanski harmed her when she was 16 during casting for his film Pirates. In 2017, a German woman known as Robin M. alleges he harmed her in 1972 when she was 15. In 2023, a woman files a civil lawsuit alleging Polanski harmed her in 1973 when she was 13. The case settles in 2024. Each new allegation follows a familiar pattern. Young teenage girl, power imbalance, harm. Polanski denies all allegations except the 1977 conviction, which he cannot deny because he pleaded guilty. His defenders argue that the 1977 victim, Samantha Geimer, now an adult, has publicly forgiven him and asked for the charges to be dropped. This is true. Geimer, who has written about her experience, describes Polanski's actions as wrong, but believes the media circus and legal proceedings caused her more harm than the incident itself. She wants the case closed. But forgiveness from one victim doesn't erase the crime or the pattern of allegations from others. And Geimer's forgiveness doesn't change the fact that Polanski pleaded guilty to a serious crime and fled to avoid punishment. September 2009. Swiss authorities arrest Polanski when he arrives in Zurich to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Zurich Film Festival. The United States had requested his arrest, hoping Switzerland would extradite him. Polanski spends months under house arrest at his chalet in Gstaad while legal proceedings unfold. Film industry figures rally to his defense. Woody Allen, Martin Scorsese, David Lynch, Wim Wenders. Over 100 filmmakers and actors sign a petition demanding his release. Harvey Weinstein publicly supports him. The petition, organized by French filmmaker Bernard-Henri Lévy, called Polanski's arrest a case of moralistic lynching. Among the signatories, Martin Scorsese, Woody Allen, David Lynch, Wim Wenders, Pedro Almodovar, Tilda Swinton, Monica Bellucci, Fanny Ardant, Asia Argento, who would later become a prominent voice in the Me Too movement, and Harvey Weinstein. 138 film industry figures signed a document defending a man who pleaded guilty to unlawful relations with a child. The petition argued for his release based on his artistry, his suffering, and his age. It never mentioned Samantha Gailey. Let that number sink in. 138 people, directors, actors, producers, signed their names to a document defending a man who admitted to unlawful relations with a child. Some of them had daughters. Some of them claimed to support women's rights. But when it came to protecting one of their own, they chose him over a 13-year-old girl. If you have a daughter, imagine someone doing to her what Polanski did to Samantha. Then imagine watching Hollywood give that person a standing ovation. That's what we're looking at. July 2010. Swiss authorities reject the American extradition request on technical grounds and release Polanski. He returns to France, where he remains protected from extradition. The brief period when it seemed justice might catch up with him passes. As of this writing, Roman Polanski is 91 years old. He still lives in Paris. He still cannot return to the United States without facing arrest. The international arrest warrant remains active. In October 2024, his most recent civil lawsuit settled out of court. He continues to deny all allegations, except the one he pleaded guilty to in 1977. Polanski has been a fugitive for 47 years, longer than he lived freely in the United States. He has made approximately 15 films during his fugitive years. He has received numerous international awards, and he has the Oscar he won in 2003 for The Pianist, awarded to him by an academy that knew he was a fugitive who pleaded guilty to unlawful relations with a child. Here's the question that destroys me. How does a man who pleads guilty to unlawful relations with a child continue to receive honors, funding, and celebration? How does Hollywood justify giving him an Oscar? How do actors agree to work with him? How do film festivals celebrate him? The defenses are familiar. Separate art from artist. His mother lost her life at Auschwitz. Different era, different attitudes. None withstand scrutiny. Art can be great while the artist is criminal. Suffering doesn't excuse committing acts with children. The 1970s still had laws against harming children. Polanski pleaded guilty. He knew it was wrong. He ran. Here's what actually happened. Hollywood protected Polanski because he made great films and had powerful friends. Talent excused everything. The same dynamic that protected Harvey Weinstein for decades protected Roman Polanski even longer. Samantha Gamer writes with devastating clarity in her memoir, The Girl, A Life in the Shadow of Roman Polanski. She describes being 13 in Jack Nicholson's house, drinking champagne because a famous director offered it. I knew it was wrong, she writes. But he was Roman Polanski. Who was I to say no? She describes the incident itself in clinical terms. She's had to, having been forced to recount it in grand jury testimony, in media interviews, in endless legal proceedings. But what haunts her most, she says, isn't the incident. It's the decades after. The reporters who stalked her family, the comedians who made jokes, the fact that the person who committed acts with her went on to make celebrated films while she lived in his shadow. He took an hour of my life, she writes. The world gave him 50 years of mine. Geimer describes moving multiple times to escape media attention, changing her name, watching her children Google their mother and find the court transcripts, the jokes, the endless coverage. I became the Polanski girl, she writes. Not Samantha, not a person. Just the thing that happened to Roman Polanski that one time. The theft wasn't just physical. It was existential. She acknowledges Polanski's crime, but also notes the way media and legal proceedings turned her into a public spectacle. She criticizes Judge Rittenband's handling of the case, suggesting the judge was more interested in public perception than justice. But she never excuses what Polanski did. She simply wants to move forward, to not be defined by this event for her entire life. The Academy's 2003 decision to honor Polanski with Best Director represents one of the most morally compromised moments in Oscar history. They knew his history. They knew he was a fugitive. They gave him the Oscar anyway, and many in attendance stood and applauded. The standing ovation still echoes, a reminder of Hollywood's willingness to celebrate talent while ignoring crime. Roman Polanski's Oscar, won nearly a half-century into his fugitive status, remains in the record books. The Academy cannot take it back. They can expel him from membership, which they did in 2018 during the Me Too reckoning. But the Oscar win stands. When we see Polanski's name in Oscar history, we're looking at a man who pleaded guilty to unlawful relations with a 13-year-old child and fled the country to avoid punishment. We're seeing an industry that continued to fund his films, distribute his work, and honor his achievements despite knowing he was a fugitive. We're witnessing a moral failure so profound that it takes your breath away. Polanski won his Oscar while already exposed as a criminal. He was a known fugitive, celebrated anyway. But our final Oscar winner hid his crimes while winning, using his Oscar power as both a weapon and shield. And when he was finally exposed, the world discovered the most prolific predator in Hollywood history, Harvey Weinstein, the Oscar-winning producer whose empire hid decades of predation. Elizabeth, Life is Beautiful, Saving Private Ryan, The Thin Red Line, and Shakespeare in Love. When presenter Jack Nicholson opens the envelope and reads, Shakespeare in Love, gasps ripple through the audience. Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan, a cinematic achievement about D-Day that had dominated the awards season, was expected to win. Instead, a romantic comedy about the young William Shakespeare. Produced by Miramax Films, Harvey Weinstein walks on stage. He accepts the golden statuette. He gives his speech. He thanks the Academy. He holds the Oscar. He is an Oscar winner. If you were alive in 1999, think about where you were. Maybe you were in high school. Maybe you were starting your career. Maybe you were raising kids. While you were living your normal life. 18 years while survivors carry their trauma in silence, watching him climb higher and higher. 18 years while he continues hunting. And then, In October 2017, the dam finally breaks. The New York Times publishes an investigation by Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey, revealing that the convictions carry significant prison time. The jury would take 5 days to decide his fate, but the survivors only needed seconds to know the truth. March 11, 2020, New York Supreme Court Justice James Burke sentences Harvey Weinstein to 23 years in prison. The once powerful producer, now 67 years old and using a walker, shows no emotion as the sentence is read. This is your first conviction, but conviction is overturned on appeal due to procedural errors. Testimony from additional accusers not directly related to the charges should not have been admitted. But the court does not find Weinstein innocent. A retrial is ordered. He remains incarcerated. December 2022, a Los Angeles jury convicts Weinstein on 3 of 7 counts related to one victim, a model and actress identified in court as Jane Doe 1, later revealed to be Evgenia Chernyshova. February 2023, Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Lisa Lynch sentences Weinstein to an additional 16 years in prison, to be served consecutively after his New York sentence. Here's where the numbers become brutal. That Weinstein is a victim of the Me Too movement, that his accusers maintained friendly relationships with him after the alleged incidents. The jury doesn't buy it. Judge Burke explicitly rejects the defense's attempt to paint Weinstein as a victim. This is your first conviction, but it is not your first offense. Ashley Judd, one of the first to go public with allegations, responds to the overturned conviction on appeal in 2024 by saying, "We still live in our truth, and we know what happened." The appeals should not have been admitted. But the court does not find Weinstein innocent. A retrial is ordered. As of this, 4 cases prove, Oscar glory can sit comfortably in the hands of frauds, criminals, and predators. Sachin Littlefeather became an Oscar icon through a fabricated identity, deceiving the Academy and the world for half a century. The Academy apologized to her just weeks before her passing, unaware they were honoring someone who had appropriated an identity for prestige. Ian McClellan Hunter, Pierre Boulle, and the ghost of Robert Rich represent systematic fraud. Oscar winners who accepted Academy Awards for work they didn't create, their fraudulent wins standing in the record books for decades. Roman Polanski won Best Director as a fugitive who committed acts with a child, 25 years into his fugitive status, and received a standing ovation from an industry that knew exactly who he was. And Feather passed away believing her fraud was secure. Only her passing allowed the truth to emerge. The blacklist frauds kept their stolen Oscars for decades. Hunter for 21 years, Boulle for 26 years. Polanski has been a fugitive for 47 years and won his Oscar 25 years into that fugitive status. Weinstein operated for 30 years after winning his Oscar before exposure. The truth arrived late, often too late for justice, too late for the victims, too late to undo the damage. Yet these exposures matter. They remind us that talent doesn't excuse criminality, that fame doesn't grant immunity, and that the golden statue on someone's mantle tells us nothing about their character. The Oscar measures performance, on screen and, as we've seen, off it. These 4 cases weren't just individual frauds. They enabled frauds, protected by an industry that valued reputation over truth, prestige over justice, and Oscar glory over basic human decency. The Academy didn't commit these frauds, but they participated in them, honored them, and in some cases, defended them. The statuettes still exist. The Academy records still show their names. But now, when we see those wins in the history books, we know what we're really looking at. Monuments to Hollywood's most shameful failures, and the frauds who got away with it far too long. But there's hope in these exposures. Littlefeather's fraud was revealed, giving voice to actual Native activists who were denied opportunities. The blacklist frauds were corrected, restoring credit to the real artists. Polanski was expelled from the Academy in 2018 during the Me Too reckoning, and won the Golden Age Files, where we honor classic Hollywood by revealing its full, unvarnished truth. Because legends deserve honesty, not hagiography. If these stories have moved you, challenged you, or changed how you see Oscar history, please subscribe to our channel. We'll continue investigating Hollywood's hidden truths, the secrets behind the glamour, the reality behind the legends. Is just metal and gold plate. What matters is the truth we uncover when we look beyond its gleam.